Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
Mr Speaker, I was very disappointed in the Prime Minister's statement because it confirmed to me that the pre-2005 election promise about being ambitious for New Zealand had really turned out to be the empty slogan that I thought that it was. And I always thought they were empty words, that he never was ambitious for New Zealand. He was certainly ambitious for John Key, but he wasn't ambitious for New Zealand. Mr Speaker, I should be grateful because, of course, this makes our task easier as an opposition determined to win back the confidence of New Zealand and to restore the principles of fairness that underpin our way of life. The New Zealand way of life is actually about those principles of fairness. That's what we believe in as a nation, and that's what we need to have restored. Mr Speaker, I am not grateful, however, because I do see the consequences for so many people that I am privileged to represent in this House of the betrayal that this national government has represented to those that put trust in them. Mr Speaker, I see the people in the supermarket struggling with the reality of the tax switch. That wasn't a switch for them at all. They're paying more and they're getting no more than they were getting before in their hand. John Key told them that not one person would be worse off as a result of the tax switch. And that's why we can say it was a tax swindle, because it wasn't capable of delivering what he said. I have to say there are a lot of people in Christchurch East saying, nobody will be worse off after this tax switch. I think the riposte to that is, yeah, right. And they're not the only people that you would be expecting me to be talking about, the lower socio-economic group. I'm talking right to middle New Zealand when I'm saying that they're feeling the pain at the till, the pain at the pump, and the pain when they pay for their power. Mr Speaker, I'm talking about those people who don't feel better off since 15% was the new GST rate, and when National decided to squander over 40% of the tax cuts on only 10% of New Zealand's highest income earners. Mr Speaker, and in my electorate, talk to a homeowner in one of the 5 particularly damaged suburbs in my electorate and ask them what they think of the Prime Minister's reassuring words now, 5 months after the earthquake has occurred. He and all the ministers that were so happy to parade through the streets of my electorate when there were photo opportunities to be had, now they are nowhere to be seen. Mr Speaker, Jerry Brownlee is going to make a statement tomorrow or the next day about what the government will do for those whose alternative accommodation funding has run out. And guess what's brought on the sudden burst of energy from the Minister of Energy? Guess what's done that? The first group of people to run out of money in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks' time. It's absolutely disgraceful that he's kept all of those people on tenterhooks for month after month after month, knowing that they were going to run out. The first ones would run out when the 6 months was up from the happening of the earthquake. It is absolutely outrageous. Mr Speaker, I've been asked by many constituents to lobby the government for choices to be made available. What does one say to the 80-year-old who stands up at a public meeting and says to me, will I be still alive when my house is rebuilt in 3 to 4 years' time? What do you say to somebody in that situation? Mr Speaker, what about the couples that have split up and the mutual ownership of a wrecked property, holding them back from getting on with their lives? These are cases I've written to the Minister about. You know that something needs to be done. When people need to move to another job in another town, what do they do with the equity in their land when they have to walk away from their land in the meantime? It's clear that these circumstances require some form of intervention. Now, I've said to the government it doesn't have to be funded by the taxpayer or the ratepayer or by either of them alone. Maybe there is a private sector solution that could be facilitated, or maybe even a public-private partnership. I mean, we hear the government talking about it. Here's a classic example of where you could get everyone working together, singing off the same song sheet But what I'm very fearful of, what will happen is that nothing will happen, and then we'll see something that is evidenced internationally that will happen in a situation like that, and it's called desertification. You bowl the house, you take the cash settlement from the insurer, and then you sell the empty section later on. What does that look like for the people remaining in their houses in the meantime while the suburb is being rebuilt? Now, I arranged for a local group called Project Employment and Environmental Enhancement to come and tidy up some of the frontages of the abandoned properties in Seabreeze Close in Pacific Park, but it is a major task and it actually does need ongoing attention. And I wonder if the Prime Minister has been back to look at the mess in Seabreeze Close. He was certainly happy there to front up with the television cameras, but I wonder if he's willing to front up now. In fact, I challenge the Prime Minister of New Zealand to come back without the cameras and see how the people are feeling just now, 5 months on from the earthquake. But if you have to bring the cameras, well then maybe that would be a good thing, because there are a few things that those constituents would like to say to the Prime Minister, who was happy to be there at the time but not happy to front up when times are getting more tough. Mr. Speaker, the trouble with the Prime Minister is simply this. During his first few weeks as Prime Minister, he earned himself the nickname Mr. Smile and Wave. No matter what the circumstances, he just smiles and waves. He seems to think that everything can be managed with comforting words, with a reassuring hug, a warm handshake and a smile that never quite makes it to the eyes. But, Mr. Speaker, that isn't leadership. Mr. Speaker, that isn't how you deliver an ambitious agenda for the country, and it certainly doesn't do anything for my constituents in Christchurch East. Mr. Speaker, I wrote a book review on Red Alert about a book I'd read over the break called The Gods That Failed, How the Financial Elite Have Gambled Away Our Futures. Mr. Speaker, the original version of the book was called How Blind Faith in Markets Has Cost Us Our Future. Mr. Speaker, the narrative, or the metaphor within the narrative of this book, is inspired by the 12 gods of ancient Greece that lived on Mount Olympus. Elliott and Atkinson have styled the super financiers and the international organisations, the central banks, the IMF, the World Bank, the new Olympians, and the 12 gods of the modern Mount Olympus are globalisation, communication, liberalisation, privatisation, competition, financialisation, speculation, recklessness, greed, arrogance, oligarchy and excess. One of the last chapters in that book is called Last Tango on Wall Street, which has a very simple explanation of how the new Olympians, and that's the Prime Minister's background, found ways to make money out of nothing, creating securitised financial products like collateralised debt obligations out of the subprime market and then hiding the risk behind AAA-rated institutions. Mr. Speaker, the new Olympians made personal fortunes, as we know, with bonuses they never had to repay when it all turned to custard. And they were happy to see the taxpayers of the world pick up the tab for their multi-trillion-dollar insanity. Mr. Speaker, the financial elite referred to in this book do not create wealth. They amass wealth for themselves personally and their mates. Mr. Speaker, the book reminded me of a comment I made about John Key when he was leader of the opposition, and that was that the only difference between a gambler and a money market trader is that a gambler is a money market trader who has lost his or her edge. And I guess that's why he's retired from that chapter in his life, but the instinct is still there. No wonder he wants New Zealand to be the Wall Street of the Asia Pacific. He wants to sell our country's assets to the financial elite he left behind. And make no mistake, because that's exactly whose hands it will end up in, because I don't know about you, but I don't know any mums and dads that sit around the kitchen table wondering when the government will allow them to invest in assets they already own, because the mum and dads I know are sitting around the kitchen table trying to work out how to make their budget stretch to the end of the week. Mr. Speaker, there's an old saying, to make real money, you need to make real things, and that's what we need to be doing as a nation. Very good.